He's got a whole range of things to share with us today, and it's going to take quite a bit of time. And I'd like to turn this floor over to you, Ravi. Ravi, please take it away.
Thank you, Raymond. Hope all of you can hear me.
Yes?
Yes, great, great. Okay, now first impression counts. I think most of you looking at me probably will be looking at my beard, thinking that this is the outcome of the lockdown. Possibly because I couldn't go to the barber, or maybe you have wrongfully joined a training on some religious talk. Actually, it's not neither. This is my branding, actually. All right, I've been with the beard for the last, I don't know, 40 years, 30 years or so. All right. Okay. Now, as Raymond said earlier, please mute your mic because, of course, it will disrupt my presentation. If you have any question, you can actually post your question via the chat box, and later at the end of the presentation, I will take on the questions that you have put on the chat box. All right. Okay. So again, not to distract any one of you, I'm again going to mute my face, and I'm going to put the presentation slide across to you so that you won't be distracted by my physical appearance. All right, because the whole training is about communication and effectively communicating. So what is important is your total attention, your total focus should be at the message that is being conveyed, rather than trying to psychoanalyze me, looking at my physical appearance and so on. All right, okay. So I'm going to move over to I'm going to mute my my image. All right, and then we would go on. Yeah. Okay, let me.
Full screen.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So this is the. So basically, all right. When we are looking at the time now, it's. I think it's about two in the afternoon. Under normal circumstances, we would be busy working. We would be engaged in some productive activity. Unfortunately, owing to this lockdown, all right, our entire attention is distracted, has gone disarray. All of us, all right, whether we are working adults or otherwise, we are caught in this quagmire, all right, where we find that adjusting to this scenario is rather trying, I would say. For some, it's definitely very difficult, all right? But nevertheless, communication is something that we have to continue as human beings, all right? Good communication skills are imperative, whether it's for business or for any other personal relationship. So, so these skills can often mean the difference between success and failure. Now, when I use the word success and failure here, I'm not talking about success or failure in terms of business profits or whatever. When I use the word success or failure here, I'm referring to establishing relationship with people that you intend to or you want to communicate. All right, so that's what I mean by success or failure. I understand that the audience here is relatively diversified. All right, we have got school teachers, we have students, we have counselors, we have marketing people, and so on. So the critical element here is whether you're a student, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a counselor, whether you're a marketing person or personnel, what's important, or what's critical for us is basically how to get the message across. Now, that is easier said than done, especially now when we are going through a very difficult period. We are all anxious. We don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. One of the biggest concerns that many people have today is whether this MCO is going to be extended. What if it's going to be extended? So a lot of uncertainties. On top of that, there's fear. For example, the fear is real simply because some people have actually lost jobs. Some people are taking pay cuts. Some companies have actually closed down. So there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of a fear in people, all right, that would cloud their very existence. And the moment they try to communicate, and the moment they try to interact, this clouded mind would interfere with what they are trying to say, with what we are trying to say. Are we communicating well? Are we engaging well? All right. So it becomes very difficult. It becomes very challenging. All right. We may think that we have conveyed certain messages the way that we want to convey, but unfortunately, perhaps the person, the receiver, may have not understood the way that you want it to be understood. So this becomes even more, in a normal circumstances, it is easy to clarify. But when people are already clouded with distraction, then it becomes a challenge. So one of the most important aspects being in education is we must have a very dynamic mindset. Why dynamic mindset? Because education is ever evolving. All right. So therefore, naturally, as people being in the education fraternity, you have to have a dynamic mindset. So therefore, it is more important in the current scenario where it is inevitable for everyone's mind to be blurry. So it is constantly filled with fear. I'm using what I've just said just now. I'm just reiterating. Constantly filled with fear. So therefore, during this uncertain time, effective communication becomes very critical. All right, very, very critical. So communication skills are essential because you need to make sure that the audience clearly understand and grasp what is being conveyed. For example, if you're going to promote Health University, all right, then you will need to be fully aware as to what the university has to offer, what it stands for, what are its philosophy. So a student who wants to engage, a student who wants to enroll at HELP, similarly, would also want to have similar understanding to the intended institution they would want to enroll. So it becomes very important, very critical for the frontline people to make sure they convey the exact concerns the student has or students have. So if they are concerned about university rating, then that should be the focus of that communication. If the parents are concerned of pastoral care, for example, then that should be the highlight of the communication. So similarly, if a student comes, like teachers, for example, I'm very sure being a teacher is one of the most daunting tasks. Responsibility is higher, accountability is higher, and you have got probably 40 to 50 students in a class. And each of them have a very specific set of issues. And when you do communicate with them, how are you going to compartmentalize these issues? How are you going to make sure that you give sufficient attention to each of the, let's say, 40 students, which would eventually affect their performance in school? All right. So we have to understand the concerns. We have to understand the problems, issues, excitement of the audience before we could communicate, before we could even engage in a relationship. Let me just, yeah. So when it comes to effective communication, knowing how to say something eloquently is often more important than knowing exactly what to say. Most of the time, we tend to rehearse what we want to say. We know what exactly we want to say, but are you putting that across effectively? All right. Why do you think misunderstanding occurs? Because what you intend to say, that you have constructed in your mind, and what you actually deliver may be two different things. There are issues. We're going to discuss about that. So mastering effective communication skills is extremely important for everyone, more so as educators, counselors, and education consultants. So there are a few key elements to good communication that will help ensure your message is received and ultimately leading to the desired outcome. I'm going to discuss with you 5 critical factors. I picked out 15 critical elements in effective communication. All right, so we'll go one by one. All right, and if you want to take down notes or whatever, you can take down notes. If you're not sure, if you're not clear of what I'm saying, all right, you can actually pose the question, and towards the end of the session, I would address those questions. Yeah. So how do we prepare ourselves during this difficult time? Okay, so we are going to go through several key steps, all right, in equipping ourselves in order to face the adversity to the COVID-19 crisis. Now, the other thing that you also must observe is, for every slide that I've put across, I've actually put a picture, all right? If you see very from just now, I've put a image or picture. Now, these are not there for fun. Okay, these are not there for fun. These are for your own self-reflection. All right, as I go through each of the slide, that picture would allow you to self-reflect. So think about it. So don't just ignore that picture as just being there as a decorative piece. Definitely not. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's go through the steps. Let's look at it in depth. The first thing that you must pay attention is be attentive. Now, today you are here. You are listening to my delivery. So you technically should be attentive to what I am saying. Of course, you are at home. Some of you, most of us are at home, and even I'm at home, right? And of course, we will be distracted with our, very often when I do when I conduct my classes online off late, my dogs will come in and disturb. This time around, I make sure that my son took the dog outside the house. I mean, outside means on the porch, and leave the dog at the porch so that it doesn't come and interfere with what I'm delivering here. All right? Okay. So being attentive. So we are all going to get busier. All right. And even after this pandemic, we are going to get even more work to do, because we have got a whole load of work that has been put at the back burner, which needs to be dealt with. So we are going to be under immense pressure, and that's understandable. But however, being understandable does not make it acceptable. Just because we are going through certain pressure because of the crisis does not make it acceptable for you to neglect your communication skills. All right. So showing up to a call isn't just about physically being on the other end of the line, making a call, receiving a call, going for a meeting, meeting your client, meeting your students, meeting your prospective parents, whatever. All these, all right, just being there is not enough. So you have to dedicate 100% of your attention to each person that you want to communicate. And don't make the other person repeat what he or she has to say. The moment that you have to ask the other person to repeat, it's basically disrespecting the person that you are communicating with. So if you are there, you give 100%. And one of the greatest distractors that we have today is our smartphones. If you are going to spend X amount of time with this person, let's say you're going to spend 15 minutes with your student who's got a problem, or you're going to meet a prospective student who wants to enroll in the university, or you're going for a meeting with a client. Somebody there, can you mute me? Okay, thank you. I hope the person mutes. Thank you. All right. So whoever that is, put your phone on silent. All right. Put the phone on silent, or do not bring the phone to the meeting at all. A simple example is this person. I mean, whoever this person is probably have inadvertently switched on the microphone. All right. But that is a distractor, distracting me from delivering. So similarly, if you cannot give that time to that person, don't meet that person. If you cannot give that 10 minutes to your student to listen to a student's problem, then don't have that meeting in the first place. Because if you are there, you're going to meet, you're going to see the person, then that 10, whether it's 10 minutes or an hour, it does not matter. But that must be dedicated to that person and not to anything else. So it'll be obvious when you're not paying attention. And that's
Excuse me,
way.
Ravi.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Can I just say that I think you can mute everybody else and you can keep your mic on.
Can I do that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me just try that.
Mute everybody else. Keep your mic on.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. So the first one is being attentive, right? Okay, let's move on to number 2. Like what Miss Fiona said just now. Be an active listener. Not only do you have to listen, you have to listen actively. Otherwise, your conversation won't really go anywhere. All right. Most of the time, people hear, but they don't listen. You know what the difference between hearing and listening? Well, it's raining outside here in Subang Jaya, so I should be, what do you call it, hearing that, and my entire listening attention should be here, attending to you. So hearing is a physical act. All right, listening is not physical; it's mental. So too often, whilst we are waiting for our turn to talk, like sometimes when we are engaging in a conversation, all right, when the other party, let's say, for example, your student is talking or your prospective student is speaking, or maybe the parent is speaking, whatever, you know what happens to the person, to you? Very often you think about what you want to say next. Instead of fully listening to what the other person is saying, you are actually paying attention to yourself, to your mind, thinking what to say next. Now, what does that mean? Are you listening? No, you're not listening. So there are 4 steps in the listening process. Number 1, truly listen to the other person. Truly listen means pay total attention. Number 2, feedback the content and feeling of the other person's words. That means self-reflect what you're saying in the context of that conversation. Self-reflect. Not to think what you want to say, how you want to rebut that, what you want to say more. No, it is self-reflect. Okay, he said this. For example, the person says, I'm concerned about, let's say, for example, you have students coming to help and say, they say that they're concerned about, for example, hostel accommodation, for example. All right, the parents are concerned. Would my child be in a single room, or would a child be in a mixed room? Would that be with foreigner? All kinds of things. So they have certain inhibitions. So only when you listen to what they've got to say, only then you know their concerns. But instead of listening, don't worry about it. We have got good hostel with food and blah blah blah. But that may not be the concern. So self-reflect. And then confirm you heard the other person correctly. Sometimes you can reiterate what that person has said. That means to seek confirmation that, is this what you meant? So ask a relevant follow-up question to further clarify your understanding of their situation. So if you're not sure what they mean, then seek clarification. So that way, that person knows, all right, that the person that you're communicating with would know that you are truly there to solve their problem. So communication, in a way, is a process of problem solving. But you can't solve somebody's problem if you don't know what is their problem. And too often, we tend to assume somebody else's problem. That means we assume that this could be the problem without actively listening. So that's number 2, be an active listener. Let's move on to number 3. This is another big challenge for most of us. Be conscious of non-verbal cues. Communication is not just about the words you use. It's not just about the sentence that you create, but it's more than that. It's about you. Remember just now I made a statement that looking at me with this lengthy beard, long beard, all right, some of you probably would have had this notion that, oh, this is the outcome of the lockdown. So couldn't go to the barber, so he's growing his beard. Or in most cases, somebody with the beard is always associated with certain religious, what do you call that, image. That's normal, because that's how people interpret, because impression counts. Impression means the way you move, the way you, move your hands, the way you look, the way you stand, the way you sit. So the same sentence said by someone who is smiling, looking directly into your eyes and sitting up straight is received very differently when the speaker is looking away and slouching, even though they meant the same thing at both times. So who would you prefer? A person who is, seated straight, looking at you straight and giving your full attention, or somebody who's just looking somewhere far away most of the time, fidgeting with the smartphone whilst they're communicating. So this is verbal cues. That's because while we can say pretty much anything, our body language often reveals our true intentions or meaning. The moment that you're not interested in that, communication process, in that engagement, your body will let it out. Your body will show. Your non-verbal cues would show the other person that you're not interested or not willing to listen, unless if you are in the acting profession. That's a different profession altogether. Actors are taught how to act. They can bring about certain emotions, although they are going through another emotion. That's acting. That means you have to be trained to be an actor, but we are not actors. And I don't think that you should be acting when you are engaging in communication. You have to be upfront. So body language tells a lot about you. So great communicators know how to read others' body language so they can anticipate the direction a conversation is heading, and also make sure their own body language isn't sending out signals they don't mean to broadcast. So there's two body languages here. One is your own body language, all right? And the other one is the body language of the person that you are communicating. The moment that you find that the other party is, is looking up, looking down, looking away from you, all right, showing some disinterest, that means you should realize that this conversation is not going in the right direction. Something is wrong. So that is a cue for you as well, all right, to re-engage, to re-strategize. So this is where listening comes in. They may be concerned about A, and here you're talking about B. So of course, obviously, the body language should show. Similarly, your body language as a communicator is very important. You should make sure, all right, if you're there, you are paying full attention, and your body language should correspond with your intention. So number 3, be conscious of non-verbal cues. Okay? Anyway, as I'm going along, all right, if you have any questions, any issues that is bugging you or you're of concern, take it down and write it on the chat box. All right? I will address it later. Number 4, be mindful of your voice. Like body language, voice tone, your voice pitch, volume and speed, and even your word choice affects how the words you're actually saying are interpreted. There's a difference, for example, all right? There's a difference in, let's say, for example, if somebody wants sympathy, I'm sure, all right, all of you probably would have gone for a funeral, right, at one time or another. How would you show your sympathy? Do you speak loudly with an open smile? Definitely not. Your tone of voice would just go much lower. Sometimes it sounds a bit bassy as well, because you want to show that sympathy to that person. All right. Similarly, if you're excited about something, all right, your tone of voice should show that excitement. All right. For example, if you're going to promote Health University, for example, you don't say, "Oh, Health University, okay, you know, it's a university, it's one of the university in Malay." You don't say that. "Oh, Health University is an exciting university. We have this, we have that." That's how you should show your enthusiasm. So your tone of voice is important, all right? So your choice of words, all right? For example, instead of saying it's bad, you can say it is not good. It is not good sounds much more positive than it's bad. And when you are engaging with people, especially if you're trying, especially if you're trying to counsel somebody. I mean, there are many counselors here, all right, and you are the experts in that field. But one of the things I'm sure you have been exposed to is when you are counseling somebody, never use negative words, words like bad. Although you need to use the word, but you need to express that that meaning. But instead of saying it's bad, you can use the word it's not so good. All right. So the word good sort of gives that balance, especially when you're making comparisons. Sometimes students will make, they make comparisons. Parents would make comparisons between one university with another university, for example, right? So in that kind of manner, all right, instead of downplaying, instead of criticizing another institution, you don't have to use negative words, use positive words to convey the same message. So voice makes impression. Listen to how the other person speaks, then mirror their speaking patterns when it makes sense. Now, this is very interesting. Sometimes we can't help it. We can't help it. We cannot do anything about it, especially when it comes to voice. This is how you have been made. It's part of your DNA. Too bad. Some of us have got a very husky voice. Some of us have got a very squeaky voice. Some of us got a very baritone voice, and whatever not. That is something that we can't do anything about. However, in the process of vocalizing it, learn how to go up and go down. All right, go up and down means in the voice pitch. All right, if you engage, if let's say, for example, you find a very timid person comes to you who speaks very softly. We shouldn't, let's say your voice is a very loud voice. I always consider my voice to be very loud because I think years of training being in the academia, all right, I suppose the voice has inevitably became very loud. Anyway, but if I'm going to speak to somebody who seems to have got a timid voice, for example, then I have to lower my pitch to meet at that person's level. Because if I go all out, then it may sound like I'm actually barking at a person, and you don't want to create that kind of impression. Important. So the key is to meet your audience on their turf, and that means speaking in a way they are comfortable with. Well, affects your entire process negatively, and we don't want to put ourselves in that kind of situation. Okay, number 4, be mindful of your voice. Okay, next, Number 5, be empathetic. Not sympathetic, but empathetic. Put yourself in the other person's shoe. What does it mean? You don't necessarily have to agree with everything your audience are saying, but you should always at least try to see things from their point of view. All right? And that is very important because we are so used to seeing things. Of course, based on our training, based on our orientation, based on our experience, we may have gathered certain wisdom. That is the process. We have gathered that wisdom. But that wisdom may not be the same wisdom that the other person has. They come from a different orientation. They come from a different, probably have different experiences. All right? So if you bring your wisdom and it clashes with the other person's wisdom, then you're not going to go very far. So in order for us to understand the other person's wisdom, you have to see from their perspective, where are they coming from? So the best communicators are able to connect with the audience because they actually understand their audience concerns. So I'm going back to the issue of concerns. In any communication, knowing the concerns of the speakers are very important. If two persons are communicating, both parties must understand each other's concerns. And you're going to see the word concerns throughout my presentation. And very importantly, empathy would make you a more likable person because you're able to see from their point of view as well. So when you can draw on your knowledge of your audience's circumstances, you're better equipped to understand what they care about, which makes it more likely you'll be able to help them. All right? Because at the end of the day, all right, in our profession, we are there to impart. We are there to help. So in order for us to do that, we are there to teach, for example. And in order for us to do that, we have to see from their point of view. If you are not able to see, then the whole thing goes bust. And we don't want that. All right? Number 5, be empathetic. Okay? All right. Let's move on. Number 6, learn to ignore the unknown. All right? Learn to ignore the unknown. People sometimes don't tell the whole truth. Why should they? All right? They are there for a purpose. They just want certain information, right? So they would stick to their boundary. All right? So let them stick to their boundary. And that's okay as long as you know how to spot when it's happening. That means to say that this person does not want to go beyond this boundary. And you have to spot it. For example, a prospective student may just be evaluating Help University because they've seen an advertisement or heard from someone else. They just want to know about Help University. That's it. Not more than that. They want to know what kind of courses that we conduct and whatever not. Okay. Or the prospective student may be interested, but their parents are unconvinced, or they may be concerned of the fee. Now, these information, the student or the prospective student may not tell you up front. For example, some of you are teachers. You are handling multiple students, and some students may have family issues. And they may not want to discuss their family issues with you. And I think that we have to respect. We don't have to dig into that territory because there is a concern, all right? The concern is, let's say, for example, the student is doing badly, all right? And we know for sure that he's distracted at home, so therefore he can't study. So the question is for you not to solve the problem at home. The question is for you to solve the problem between home and school. That's where your boundary lies. What can you do here to bridge the gap? So these are crucial things to know, and you can't write them out until you learn to read between lines. So if you don't know, if you are not within the boundary to know, ignore it. It's not your problem. All right. Sometimes when we try, I mean, of course, most of us want to help. All right. In all good intention, we want to help. No doubt about that. But by prying into something where you are not welcome would not only just annoy the other person, but would make that person to stay away from you, to avoid you, which I don't think you want to. So if it's unknown, ignore it. Done. No issues. Work with what you know. Okay. So number 6, learn to ignore the unknown. Let's move on to number 7. Oh, this is very important. Be precise. Great communicators are persuasive because they can point to specific examples, anecdotes that support the point they are trying to make. And in the case of education consultants, for example, they can demonstrate exactly how Help University would be ideal to the prospective student. Be specific as you can. For example, Help University goes to tagline, University of Achievers. For example, if you see the picture here, Hall of Fame of these students who have achieved. So you can pick each of these students and mention what have they achieved. Important, show proof. Because we can say, I can solve your problem. We can say, as a problem solver, all right, in order to convince the other person, you should show proof. And the other person wants to see that proof. And if they can't see the proof, and it's very generic assuming, it's just big words and nothing else, what happens? It's not believable. And let me tell you, I'm sure all of you are dealing with millennials. And millennials are people who won't do it until they see it. All right? So this is very, very important. You can be as inspirational as you can. Some of us are very inspirational, when you speak and all that. I'm sure you yourself have admired some people for their inspirational talk and so on. But most of the time, the moment that speech is over and when they go back, it's all forgotten. Simply because that inspiration only occurs at that point of time, but without clear proof, without clear evidence, it cannot connect with the millennials. They want to see proof. So be precise, be specific, and show proof. Okay? All right, that's number 7, be precise. Let's move on. Number 8, again, a very critical area. Be knowledgeable. You should, now we are all in the education, we are all part of the education fraternity. You should know about the issues or topics that you want to convey. For example, in education, we should know about trends, focus, competitive education systems, depending on who are you engaging with. A simple example would be some of the, education counselors. One of the common questions they ask you, I'm sure, they ask is, what is the difference between the British education system and the Australian education system? The choice. All right? Common question. What is the difference between the American education system and the British education system? So you need to know. You need to understand. All right? So if you don't know, then you are in trouble. All right? So your audience will trust you if you demonstrate deep understanding and have succinct knowledge about the topic being conveyed. All right? Never go around. The moment that you go around, beating down the bush, your audience will know. or this guy does not know. And the moment that they feel that you don't know, automatically that particular communication is lost. It is not going to lead to any form of relationship because the other person know that you're not knowledgeable. And in worst case scenario, that individual may be representing a particular institution. And if that person is not knowledgeable, it reflects on that institution that he represents. You see? All right? So you have to be an expert before communicating. Know your facts. Number 8, be knowledgeable. But then, of course, one of the burning questions all of you would, burning thought that I think all of you would have is, how can I be an expert? I only know so much. I only have read so much. I can't be knowledgeable about everything. Well, that goes to the next slide. Be aware of your own ignorance. Meaning, by being an expert does not mean you know everything. You see? All right? So therefore, don't act like you do. If you don't know, then you don't know. So if somebody comes to you and let's say ask about something that you don't know, one thing that you should know is who else amongst you have that knowledge on that area. So you can say, the best person to talk to about this is my colleague here who is an expert in that field. Done. You save the day. All right? You should know enough to sketch out the outlines of their situation on your own. But you'll always have to rely on your audience to fill in the little details. There are things you know, there are things you don't know. So be aware of the gaps in your knowledge. Then ask your audience to help fill them in if you don't know. And remember, they'll appreciate your honesty about what you don't know. That's important. All right? Honesty is very critical here. If you don't know, you don't know. Fine. All right? Ask somebody. All right? Or tell them, I'll get back to you on this issue. I'll get back to you on this, I'll communicate with you later, whatever. But please, don't bullshit. All right? I mean, it's a crude word, but that I think all of you would appreciate what I'm saying. All right? So be aware of your own ignorance and accept that ignorance. All right? Number 10. Be sincere. All right? Again, it's all connected. The key to effective communication is asking good questions. And if you're not actually curious about your audience situation, it'll be all too easy to slip into your elevator pitch before you've established whether any part of it is relevant to your audience. Now, this happens all the time. All right? Ask questions, be sincere. And more importantly, what I've said just now about being honest and sincere is even more critical now because people are anxious. Whether now during this pandemic or even post-pandemic, post-coronavirus pandemic. All right? It's even more critical because the apprehension is very much higher now because of the level of uncertainty that people have. A lot of question marks. To even step out of the house, people are so afraid. All right? So if they can't see honesty or sincerity in you, all right, they are not going to go beyond. And what is an elevator pitch? Very simple. Elevator pitch is in our training, whatever jobs that we do. I think some of you are teachers, you've gone through teachers training college, some marketeers here who probably have gone through marketing training and so on. And your company probably would have, or your businesses, your company or whatever, would probably have a training. This is how you go for your sales pitch. This is how effective teaching is. All that are fine. But then again, your audience are different at different times. So if you use the same mode, the same mold for different sets of people, do you think anything is going to be established? Definitely not. So great communicators are naturally curious about their conversational counterparts. Ask questions first, then answer them later. Know your audience. All right. Just to give you an example, before I actually engage with you today, I was given a set of information about who is attending this training. All right. Whether you are a teacher, you are a parent, or you're a student, or you are a counselor, whatever. So I know who I am addressing. If I don't know who I'm addressing, and I go on my mode, for example, my hollowed mode, a blinkered mode, for example, you know what's going to happen? After about 10 minutes of through this, many will just move out. Simply because I'm just taking off the shelf, or rather off the rack template and fixing it to engage with you. Some may be interested because it clicks. Some may not because it's not relevant. It's not connecting. So it becomes a daunting task. So my entire effort is wasted. If I have got about, let's say today we've got about, well, technically we should have about 250 participants. Even if I lose one participant, that means what? It means that I have failed to keep the attention of this conversation going. I failed in achieving the desired outcome because somebody has stepped out. Because they found that this training, or rather bubble training, is not relevant to that person. Done. So it's a waste. And that's one. What more if you have got about, out of 250, 50 people leave. So know your, what do you call that, persons that you're engaging with. Okay? So, very important, be sincere. Sincere means knowing who you're talking to. If you're not sincere, then you'll just go, you know, like for example, when you go to for a party, you meet so many people. All right? Well, most of the time you're not sincere because you don't know the persons. You just go around, have small talks, and that's about all. That's fine. But this is not a party. When you are communicating with your student, if your student is communicating with a teacher, or teacher with a counselor, whatever, there is a purpose to that communication. It's not a small talk. All right? So therefore, sincerity is critical. Okay. Next. Number 11. Give benefit of doubt to your audience. Some people leave out important information that can change the trajectory of the communication. All of the above situations are frustrating, and some are certainly cause for annoyance. All right? Like what I said earlier, certain information may be left out in the communication. Although it could be critical, it may be left out, maybe genuinely left out, or it could be intentionally left out. But that does not give you the right to jump to conclusion about your audience intent. Because if you do that, what's going to happen is it is going to color the rest of your interaction in a negative light. That means you're starting the conversation on the wrong footing. Because you have already made an impression of the other person. Oh, this person is lying. This person is not telling me the whole thing. No. Don't do that. All right? Always assume good intent so you're not subconsciously treating your audience with hostility. Yes. For example, in marketing, let me tell you, in marketing, some marketeers tend to make an assumption purely based on certain information. Oh, this person is not going to buy my product. This person is not going to enroll in my institution. So, therefore, the moment that you build that mindset, all right, every other engagement with that person is going to go on a negative mode. Although that person may have said or may have not said certain things intentionally or unintentionally. Especially if you see during what we call that education fair. Students probably have gone to so many booths. Now this is more towards those counselors, education counselors and so on. All right, you find that they've gone through different booths and so on, and they may have gathered certain information about certain institution, but they're not willing, and that is their concern, but they're not willing to share that concern. And you, based on that communication, you assume that that person has already decided to go to another institution without knowing the concern. And after that, all communication, whatever you say, all right, would be based on that construct that you have made in your mind about that particular prospective student. And technically, you are actually denying yourself of a prospective student just because you did not give the benefit of doubt to your audience. So always do that, because we see there's the what do you call that? The sender and there's a receiver. All right, there's a sender and a receiver. The sender is you, me. Let's say I'm a lecturer. All right, I'm going to teach my student. So I'm the sender, and the receiver is the student. So there's greater accountability on me as a lecturer to impart knowledge to the receiver, who is a student. The student may not or rather need not be accountable for that. May intentionally don't want to be accountable, may unintentionally don't want to be accountable for the learning process. Let's put that aside. But as a sender, it becomes my responsibility to make sure I untangle that and communicate effectively. Again, this happens between parents and children. All right, same thing. Parents may have certain intention. Children may have different. They see things from a different wavelength, and the parent may see this from a different wavelength, and they're generations apart. So if I am going to communicate with my children, to a larger extent, I have to come down to the children's generation to see things from their perspective. I have to give the benefit of the doubt to my child why that child is thinking or saying or doing certain things. Because I'm the sender, I want to impart certain things to that person. So this is very critical again. All right. So in any situation, the sender, all right, or the person who's going to convey, all right, is in has got a greater responsibility, all right, in this process. Okay. Number 11, give benefit of doubt to your audience. Okay. Number 12. There's Batman there. Batman always stands for this virtue. Uphold integrity at all times. I did not use Captain America. I used Batman. Because Captain America, well, he doesn't uphold integrity at all times. But Batman does. At any point of time, all right, Batman upholds integrity. None of his villains have died so far. They are behind bars, but never died. Interesting, isn't it? There's ethics here. Just because you're assuming good intent does not mean your audience will. So always be upfront about the question you can answer, the the questions you can't, and the questions with answers your audience might not necessarily like. Certain things that we are saying, all right, certain things that we are conveying may not be likable, all right? But just because it's not likable, you don't have to camouflage it. You don't have to hide it away. Camouflaging is one thing. You don't have to hide it away. Don't have to sweep it under the carpet. Your audience won't be forthright about their goals and areas for improvement unless they trust you. Only if they know they can trust you, they would come to you. They would allow you to help them. That means always being upfront when you don't know something, so they believe that what you're saying when you do know the answer. So meaning to say that at one time you say that you don't know certain things. That means there's a trust there already. All right. And once that trust is established, like what I said earlier, automatically now, when you give an answer, when you give them a notion, when you give them a solution, by virtue of your integrity, the chances of them accepting what you're saying will be higher. All right. It's like telling a child, when I was in school, all right, one of the problems that, in school, one of the problems that we had is, students smoking cigarette. And the teachers, all right, would always go after the student, who whether during school hours or after school hours smoke. But the teacher who is reprimanding the student, he himself smokes. So how can you, a person who is smoking, telling another person smoking is bad for you? Something like that. Can you see? Integrity. All right. So if you show integrity, the trust will be there. And most likely, all right, the solutions that you're trying to, put forward may have a greater chance of acceptability. Okay. Number 12, uphold integrity at all times. Okay. Number 13, don't assume. This one is a big problem, right? Earlier. If you have been a teacher, counselor, or even an education consultant for a while, you can easily fall into a routine. But just because a particular audience fit a certain profile and had the same problems and processes doesn't mean the rest will be the same. And this I've spoken earlier. But here we are I'm looking earlier, I discussed that from a different context. But here, assumption itself is something that we should stay away from. Unless you have independently verified a piece of information or your audience has said the words to you, never make an assumption about the situation. All right. This is more critical today. All right. Some of us, some of our audience, or some of us are, have, this lockdown, for example. For some of us, it's not really a big problem. They have their internal support group, friends, family, and whatever not. They have that support group. So they're okay. For some others, all right, for example, I've got a student who lives alone. He's from South Korea, and he lives alone in his apartment. He doesn't have much friends. And you know what he told me? Sir, from time to time, can I call you and speak to you? I said, yes, why not? I said, sure, why not? He says that he's so lonely and he's feeling depressed. So I said, what about your classmates? Sir, before I could even know my classmates, the lockdown occurred. And the only person that he has been communicating, every other day he calls me and speaks to me. But I can't assume that he's bugging me. All students are like that. If I treated him as any other student, thinking that all students have got their own things to do, they've got their, internet, they've got your gaming, whatever. If I assume that, I'm going to deny this student. I'm going to be a cause of his further depression. So that's important. Don't assume. So while it only takes a few seconds to ask a follow-up question, making audience feel ignored and forcing them to interrupt you to correct an assumption is a negative ripple effect that can last forever. Meaning, you made an assumption, and then the other person, the receiver says, no, it's not like this, it's like this. Automatically, that impression is going to be lasting forever. The trust is going to be lost. All right. The receiver is not going to listen to you after that, because you have made a preconceived construct about that person, which is not true. Okay? All right. That's number 13. Don't assume. Okay. Number 14. All right. Persevere in your effort. This is something that we have to be committed to. All right. Persevere. Don't give up easily. There's a fine line between, there's a fine line between persistence and pestering. And it's crucial for us to understand it. Persistence, pestering. Continuing to call and email your audience without knowing why they are not responding is counterproductive and can only serve to annoy and alienate them. The moment they see this call, oh, this person, I don't know, I'm not going to pick it up. He's just bugging me to do this and bugging me to join or bugging me to enroll or whatever. You don't do that. If you haven't received a response to a follow-up message, try a different approach. All right, instead of forwarding the same email to your audience, start fresh with a new headline and an easier call to action. Once you re-engage them, steer the conversation back to the original purpose, especially when you're having, when you are dealing with persons with problems. Sometimes they may not be at the stage where they are willing to open up. It takes a lot of coaxing. I think this is something that I think there are counselors in this group. I'm sure you know that, teachers for that matter, I'm sure you're trained on that, how to deal with this kind of scenario. All right, people won't just easily open up to you. All right, and more so when you're going through this. See, it's like the student I just told you just now. It's kind of embarrassing to him. He actually spoke to me and said, "Sir, it's embarrassing to say that I got no friends. Back in Korea, I've got a lot of friends, but here I just joined, and I don't have many friends." So for him to tell me that, it was, it took a lot of trust that I've created, that he was able to open up with me. But let's say I did not, and I treated him as one of my many students. What's going to happen? All right, he's going to alienate himself further. He's not going to open up, and the whole effort is wasted. So perseverance is very important. All right, when you're engaging with people, especially now, it's very, very critical. All right, whether in business, whether in your own personal relationship, it doesn't really matter. All right. Okay, number 14, persevere in your effort. The last one. All right, we are almost there. All right, we are almost there. Silence is golden. Sometimes. All right, most people are too uncomfortable with silence. When you're having a conversation, then after that there's complete silence. People become very uncomfortable, especially when you're engaging with another person. So when they ask a question and the audience gets quiet, most people immediately try to fill that silence by asking a follow-up or clarifying the ask. All right, you feel comfortable, so instead of allowing that space, you quickly fill in with another question. Perhaps that person was taking a longer time to respond. Maybe that person is reflecting. Allow 3 to 5 seconds before you speak. Or you can even ask, do you need more time to respond? Why not? All right. So generally, pausing in between is critical. So that way, you're not interrupting an important thought your audience might be having. And you are setting the precedent that silence is welcome in your conversation. All right. Don't expect people to react to you immediately. Not necessary. Especially in a critical, uncertain times like this. All right, because this whole thing is new to many people. All right, especially if you're dealing with young people, this has never happened in their lifetime. At least some of us may have gone through SARS and we had some level of restrictions and so on in the early 2004 and so on, and whatever not, or even earlier, during the Nipah virus in Malaysia, we had some level of restriction. But young people today may have not gone through that. So a lot of things are new to them. They are also settling, like as much as we are trying to settle things, trying to comfort ourselves. So in between conversation, all right, if in the conversation, if the other party is silent, allow that. All right, but not too long, of course. Sometimes they will be lost, so you have to bring them back on track. But you don't do the talking all the time. All right, your purpose is to, and see, remember going back to what I said earlier, the purpose is to know the other person before you can even engage. If you don't know the other person, how are you going to engage? All right, then what's going to happen is you're going to follow this blinkered approach using a single template. And when you use a particular mold, and then what's going to happen? Whoever fits in will fit in, and the rest will just, you just lost them. You just lose them, right? So number 15, silence is golden. So therefore, all right, effective communication skills are fundamental for everyone. Hence, we have to keep it sharp. That means what? Sharp means you have to train and retrain all the time and be ever ready to use it effectively. When you have a skill, and if you don't use it, if you don't sharpen it, meaning you don't train and retrain, it'll be lost. So whatever I've told you just now, all right, the 15 factors that I've told you just now are more for self-reflection. Nothing I've said so far is unknown to most of us. It's not unknown to most of us. I'm just rekindling it. I'm just adding some, stimulation, all right, in your mind, all right, so that you would self-reflect. You would retrain yourself, retrack yourself, or rather re-engineer yourself, all right, to keep it sharp and ready to use it at any point of time. So to reiterate the key points, all right, we are almost at the end of our session. So to reiterate the key points, there are 15 factors. Number 1, be attentive. Number 2, be an active listener. Number 3, be conscious of non-verbal cues. Number 4, be mindful of your voice. Number 5, be empathetic. Number 6, learn to ignore the unknown. Number 7, be precise. Number 8, be knowledgeable. Number 9, beware of your own ignorance. Number 10, be sincere. Number 11, give benefit of doubt to your audience. Number 12, uphold integrity at all times. Number 13, don't assume. 14, persevere in your effort. And lastly, 15, silence is golden sometimes. So being, my concluding comment is, being part of the education fraternity, it is important to embrace best practices. So we have to keep up with the best practices. We have to be above board, all right, when we are engaging with people. So effective communication is the link between your skills, knowledge, and establishing a relationship with your audience. Thank you. So thank you. And if you have any questions, we're running out of over 15 minutes left, I think. Any questions, please put forward.
Thank you so much, Ravi. That was a very illuminating discussion we had, and it was very helpful. But you gave us very good pointers. I think we have a couple of questions, and Yin Yin, could you please assist?
Okay, for now we have two questions. The first one is from Gopal. He's asking, how do we provoke students to communicate? Because he said has been an uphill task for most of the lecturers.
Okay, now I'm purely speaking from my experience as an academician. All right, how do we provoke students? The first thing is we have to go down to their level. That means we have to go down to your level, means we have to see their mindset. Most academicians tend to be, I'm not particularly saying anybody, but most academicians tend to have this high and mighty perspective of themselves. I am knowledgeable. I know what I'm talking about. So if we go with that kind of perspective, it's not going to connect. So the connection comes when we understand the mindset of students and connect at that level. And then when you impart knowledge, it becomes a success. But otherwise, all right, we'll be in a different wavelength. That's normally the barrier. All right, the sender and the receiver are in a different wavelength. Yes. Next question.
Okay. Firstly, Ravi, maybe you could put your camera back on now.
Oh, okay, sure. Yep. All right. Yep. Okay. Sure. Forgot about that. Okay.
Okay, next question by Darshini. Are you there?
Raymond.
Yeah, Darshini, please go ahead.
No, I just wanted to ask Ravi, when a speaker has general negativity towards one or two participants, for reasons unknown, and we can detect that negativity, what do you think, Ravi, is the best solution?
Okay, when you say we detect, who is the we now?
As in the audience, the participants, because when those one or two people sort of ask questions or say something, the speaker is generally quite negative towards them and nicer to other people when answering questions, so you can sense there's a general feeling of negativity towards maybe 1, 2, 3 or 4 participants, and we don't know for what reasons, that you can detect, and you think, why is he or she doing that, so then what is the best thing to do,
No, the best thing to do is if those, I would suggest the affected party to actually bring up the issue directly with the speaker. Why are they being sidelined? That's number one. That's the right thing to do. All right. But for the rest of the participants, well, I think there's no harm in other participants also, bringing forward this concern to the speaker. I don't see a problem as well. But I think the greater responsibility lies with the affected parties to bring it up to the speaker.
Okay, thanks, Ravi. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yin, you have another question, please?
Oh no, the other question was Darshini.
Okay, now just one last thing, Ravi. Out of the 15 points you gave us, which are excellent, I just want to know which one do you think would represent the biggest barrier to communication? The one single one that you think will demolish the the lines of communication when we are
No, I think like what Gopal asked just now about how to connect with the students. I think the biggest barrier is different wavelength. As a sender, I think if you're going to communicate with somebody, you have to go into that wavelength in order to convey. So most of the time it doesn't happen that way. Most of the time, different levels. So it just goes through and nothing happens. Right? So I think the biggest factor I think would be putting yourself into the other person's shoes. The factor on being empathetic. I think that will be important.
Yes. Thank you, Ravi.
Welcome.
Okay, that's very helpful. Does anybody have any more questions that you would like to ask Ravi regarding this topic, communicating with impact? Okay, I guess there are no more questions. So I would like now to say... Sorry, who is that?
What is it?
This is Andy. Dr.
Andy.
Andy.
Okay. Yeah. Carry on, Andy.
Hi, very good talk, Ravi. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I would just like to add something to the first answer you gave to about engaging students.
Sure.
Just in addition to the points that you raised, I think it'd be a good idea to ensure as guides, as teachers, as lecturers that we never underestimate our students.
Absolutely.
That we need to encourage them as much as we can. And in addition to that, if we feel that they're having difficulties in their communication skills, is to teach them some very basic communication techniques like voice production, breath control, and so on. I think that's very important and is often lacking in some students and also in some lecturers. But yeah, good talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Andy and Ravi. Now, please stay online, everyone, because now I'd like to introduce you to the faculty members from the School of Business, and I would like to introduce you to Dr. Chia, who is the head of department for the business studies, and Ms. Liu Hui Min, who is the deputy head for business studies, and they would be explaining to all present here, parents as well as some of our education agents here, on the credit transfer process. Now, with regard to the recent COVID-19 issue, there might be some difficulties in terms of having your credits transferred, and the best people to advise you on this would be Dr. Chia and Hui Min, so they will explain to you what the process is now. Thank you. Dr. Chia?
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Dr. Chia. Okay, I think most of you, the audience here, are counselors, teachers, agents, and things like that, yeah? And one of the important things that for students is the link. There are quite a number of students who actually not only want to study locally, but also they're thinking of options to go overseas. Yeah, every year we have sent a lot of students to Australia, to New Zealand, to even to US, to UK, and so forth. Yeah. Okay, but just to let you all know, I'm talking from the perspective of business, business program, because we are from the business faculty. I can give you a bit of a glimpse of the links that we have with our partners. In fact, we have quite good links. At Help University, we have what we call our links are quite we have long time relationship with them, and then they give us a very good arrangements and things like that. Yeah. So in fact, we have a lot of students from other institutions that actually after completion of their foundation or their diploma, when they found out that we have good links to certain universities, they join us eventually. Yeah, so probably this is a good time for me to highlight to all of you what are the good links. And secondly, of importance, that we also going to highlight to you what are the scholarship available, because parents would like to know, you know, if I go to certain universities, what are the what I call the scholarship available, the bursaries that are given and things like that. Yeah, so we shall highlight to you all so that you are aware of all these the availability of scholarship, bursaries, and what are the programs that can link to this for your children or for your people that you counsel for them to go overseas. We also have a lot of cases where students initially did not intend to go anywhere. They just want to complete it in help, and then but because their results were good, and they were encouraged to apply for scholarship, and eventually they got it without even planning to go overseas. So we have a lot of cases like that also. Yeah. So okay, Hui Min, can you just put up the brochure for me? Okay, I will show you what are our links. Who are these people? Who are these universities? We have high-ranked universities in Australia and in UK, yeah, that where actually the students can join eventually. And our studies are quite flexible in the sense that the brochure, Hui Min, show me the brochure.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Different. You must understand that all the universities, whether in UK or whether in Australia or so forth, they have different. They are different. So sometimes the requirements are different. So for a student, for example, it just say they just join a year one degree, right? They plan to go to Australia, for example. So from the beginning, they need to be advised of the university that they want to go, because different universities have different requirements. So in the first year, it just say they want to go a particular university. They take a certain subjects, like for example, maybe 8 subjects or 9 subjects or 10 subjects that's required by that university. Another university that the student want to go, the combination of the subject might be different. So as counselors, when we know that students want to go overseas, please take note that they need from the beginning, they need to know which university actually they want to go, whether it's Australia or UK and so forth. Yeah. But at Help University, one thing is that our program are quite flexible. They can even complete our foundation. After foundation, we have students who actually went over to overseas for 3 years. We have also got students who finish 1 year to do a 1+2, 2 years overseas, or a 2+1, which is a 2 years at Help, and the final year only in the overseas partner universities. And of course, in addition to that, I would like to tell you, later I will show you that some of our students, they did the diploma. Even after completion of the diploma, they are able to go to a lot of university overseas. Yeah, so this is a 2+2, we call it. Yeah. Okay, let me show you this what I call the brochure here. This is one of the.
Dr. Chair,
yes.
Dr. Chair, sorry, 1 minute. Hui Min, could you set your screen to full view, please? Hui Min, did you hear me?
Okay, it's bigger now. I think too big.
It's a PDF file, sorry, Raymond.
Okay, you got to adjust a bit. Yeah, it's a bit better. Better.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay, if you just say any of you, okay, the audience, probably you might not have this brochure. These brochures are all available, yeah. Normally at the back of our brochures, they will show you specifically. Like for example, if I show you the first one here, this is Australia. This all the, okay, enough. This is just nice. Okay, to Australia, for example, this is on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side is UK. These are the universities that have linked with us. So if you look at this brochure, it specifically tell you, for example, University of Queensland, right? So we have written here, Bachelor of Business, Management, Marketing, International Business, Human Resource. They can do a 2+1 arrangement. 2+1 arrangements means they study at Help University for 2 years, and only the final year they go over there. And take note to all of you, University of Queensland is a very high-ranking university. It's ranked 48 in the world, actually. And we have a lot of parents. Some of the parents, I met one parents. Then we told them that we have very good link with what I call University of Queensland, and he was quite surprised. Because, hey, how come I didn't know about this? You know, in fact, the parents went for a 1+2. In fact, I told the parents you can actually do a 2+1 with us, meaning you can send your children to high-ranking university for 1 year only. Normally, most of the high-ranking universities, like for example, University of Melbourne, University of Australia, National University, these are very high-ranking universities. They are ranked sort of for 40 to 50 in the world ranking. Yeah, so they are very high-ranking university, and normally this high-ranking university they give you a 1+2 only. But for Help University students, they can go to University of Queensland with the 2+1. So actually, this cater for a different segment of parents who actually can't afford to send 2 years the children overseas. So the segment are bigger. Students can actually go to this university to study a few types of programs over there. So this is one of the things that we have at Help University. Yeah. So if I scroll down further, you can see that we have a University of Melbourne, which is a 1+2, University of National University 1+2, University of New South Wales 1+2, and so forth. So these are all in the brochure. I won't go down the list further because it's quite. Sorry, the screen have changed. Okay, if you look over here, we also from New Zealand. For New Zealand, we have Otago, we have Victoria University, and also down here, we have also arrangement with a university from China. Also, we also have that, yeah? University of Dongbei. So we have 2+2. Hui can control the page. Okay, if you look on the right hand side, this on the right hand side here, we have the university from United Kingdom. These are all the universities. Yeah, this one. The second thing I want to highlight to you is the scholarship that's available. So actually you can refer to this list to tell you what are the program and what type of arrangement we have with them. Yeah. So this is one of the pages that actually you can refer to. And then if you look here, probably I have to highlight you some of the universities that have actually very good relationship with us, that actually they give us scholarship to our students. Yeah. Now take for example, just now I was talking about University of Queensland. They do give our students scholarship. Every year they give us about 10 scholarship. 10 scholarship means 10 full scholarship. But of course, sometimes when we interview the candidate, the student might not deserve 100%. They might get, say, 75% or 50% or even a 25% scholarship from that university. Yeah. So in fact, for going overseas, with even the 25% bursary or scholarship, is also can reduce the cost of the for the parents. Yeah. So in this for example, again, this is University of Queensland. Every year they give about 10 scholarship. Okay. Next question, maybe you might want to know how can the student apply for this scholarship? Yeah, but of course, the first criteria is the student need to get a CGPA of minimum 3.6. Yeah, 3.6. Of course, we do consider student with the CGPA of 3.5 if they are not studying program that is not quantitative in nature, like management, marketing, because marketing, management, these are the subjects that actually more difficult to score compared to the accounting or finance, because accounting and finance, the calculation, if it's correct, it's correct. But for management subjects and so forth, they need to describe, they need to really understand and synergize whatever the facts that they have. So it's more difficult to score. So for those what I call qualitative subjects or program, we do take in student with a 3.5. So that is the first criteria, their CGPA. Now the second criteria we look at are students who are actually, they need to be active in their co-curriculum. Okay, we do not want to have student only, they know how to study only. That's another area that we look at, where students need to be active in co-curriculum in any events, whether in sports, whether in club, whether in societies, or whether in the student council and so forth. So they want them to be active, because we believe that these are the active students, actually they have better what we call EQ, we call it, yeah, or not only their IQ. And the third area that we look at is how they carry themselves in the interview. Yeah, how they carry themselves out in the interview. Yeah, how they speak, how they dress, and things like that. So these are the criteria, and based on that, we will have a committee to interview them before we actually decide on the quantum of the scholarship that they can get to go to all these universities. Yeah. So just now I told you, University of Queensland, they give about 10 scholarship available. But of course, they need, as I told you just now, minimum 3.6, or it can be 3.5. We still accept the students. Okay, on the right hand side. But of course, the other university later on, Miss Liu, she will tell you what are the scholarship available for the different universities. Yeah. So I just want to highlight you to a few. Yeah. Okay. This is another university, very interesting. This University of West England. Yeah. West England, they also give scholarship. Sometimes they give 1 or 2, it's depending on the year. It depends on how many students we send over there, so they can give 1 or 2. It depends. So but this university is probably not many people apply compared to University of Queensland, because this University of Queensland is very highly ranked, so probably this is their target. But for this University of the West England, their ranking not as high as University of Queensland, but they do give 1 or 2 scholarship that's available. And sometimes probably but of course it's not so competitive compared to University of Queensland. So these are another opportunity. Students want to go to UK, this is another university that they can consider, where they can apply for the scholarship, and their CGPA, their requirement is only 3.3. So this is where some of the students who did not qualify to go to University of Queensland, they will probably apply for the scholarship over to UK and so forth. So, and of course there are others that is like University of Macquarie also gives scholarship and so forth. Okay, I will later on probably any Q&A. You can ask me any question regarding transfer and things like that. I will pass it to Hui Ming to show to you what are the other scholarships that are available for your students. Hui Ming.
Dr. Cha, this is Lee Guan here. Thank you for the information. It will be very, very useful for our recruitment business partner to sell the credit transfer at Help. I got a message from Hui Min. She requested that you have to pass the control. She need to get the control in order for her to speak and to unmute her mic. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, done.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, sorry. Okay, I would like to share with you the scholarships that our partners are giving for all our students who are transferring there for their studies, whether it is a 2+2, 2+1, or 1+2 arrangement. So these are the universities that our students can actually have their credit transfer arrangement to these universities, including the Queen's University of Belfast, ANU, and so on. So, okay, let's go through briefly for the Australian University.
It's up the screen. Hui Ming, I don't see any screen up there.
Okay, sorry. A minute. Okay, can all of you see this?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, these are the universities that our students can have their credit transfer arrangement over to the universities. Okay, let's go through very briefly. The Australian universities, as what mentioned by Dr. Chia just now, the Queensland University is giving all the 3 different categories of scholarship to our students. Some of our students, in fact, many of us, sorry?
Women, one minute, Raymond here. Could you put it on a full view, please?
Bigger.
How do I do that?
Down there,
Bottom right. Yeah.
This one?
Can it go bigger?
I just need to enlarge it. It's not really full view, but I just enlarged the page.
Okay, better.
That will be enough.
I mean, it is nice now.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Sorry for the problem. Okay. Now, for the Queensland University, many of our students actually have gone there with the UQ Bell Faculty Help Scholarship Award. And in fact, quite a number of our students have actually gotten the UQ Economics Scholarship for Malaysian students as well. This scholarship, some of our students actually went there with 3 years full scholarship, 50% scholarship under this category. And moving on, we have the Macquarie. We have 2 years ago, one of our students actually was given a full scholarship from Macquarie University to do his accounting degree with this university under the 2+1 arrangement. Similarly, with the QUT, we do have the scholarship arrangement for our students. New South Wales, Wollongong, ANU. Last year, we have a girl who went there with a full scholarship to ANU under the NU College of Business and Economics International Undergraduate Scholarship. Melbourne, giving our students 50% scholarship, Western Australia, and so on. So these are the universities where our students can actually go there with a scholarship. Of course, it depends on the outcome of their interview and some other requirements imposed by the university. As for the UK university, okay, so West of England, many of our students have gone there with scholarship with this university, West of England. Queen's University of Belfast, they do have the full scholarship arrangement for our students. Anglia Ruskin and so on. UCB is also another university where many of our students actually go there. Bangor, Cardiff, Portsmouth, and so on. Leeds as well, yeah. So, okay, so this is the one that I wanted to share with you. This is the last batch of students who went to the Queensland University with a scholarship. Every year, we have 2 different batches of students to go to Queensland for their 1+2 or 2+1 arrangement in Queensland. And these are the 5 students who just went there earlier this year in February with a scholarship. Over here, Kai Shing, the brother went there with a scholarship as well, went to Queensland. Kai Shing's brother was our student some years ago, and he went to Queensland with a scholarship as well, graduated with a commerce degree, and he's now with a Nippon Paint as the finance manager. Another girl, this one, Erin, she is the younger sister in the family. Her elder sister just went there, I think 2 years ago. She went there with a scholarship as well, went to Queensland with a scholarship, and now the sister followed her footsteps. Okay, yeah. Okay, this is the boy that I mentioned just now. He went to Macquarie University with a full scholarship. And Shalini, she went to ANU with a full scholarship. This girl, Megan, she is not a Malaysian, but she speaks BM, English and Chinese. She completed her high school study with us in Malaysia, and she was our diploma student, and she went to Queensland with a full scholarship as well. Liang Wei went to UNSW. So yeah, these are the students that we wanted to share with you. In fact, on top of that, we have 2 girls. These 2 girls, Jeannie went to UWE, West of England, with a scholarship, and she graduated with a first-class degree from UWE. Adriana, she went to UCB, and she graduated with a first class as well. So every year we have many students came back with a first class honors degree from our partner university. These are the few things that I would like to share with you. Dr. Chia, I will return.
Yeah. Just to add on a little bit, we also have a good arrangement with our diploma student. We are 2 years here and over 2 years in either UK or Australia, even to Dong Bay universities. Yeah, so we have that arrangement also. And second thing I would like to highlight here is the student, the criteria when we select the student, it doesn't depend on what your background is. Even for international students, just now you've seen Megan. Megan is a Filipino, and she got the scholarship. We have a lot of Indonesians, even Sri Lankan, Bangladesh, from India, and so forth to actually get scholarship. So it got nothing to do where they come from. It's their result, it's their co-curriculum, and how they carry themselves. So basically, that is a criteria for the selection. Yeah, okay. Probably there's another page in the brochure. If you can get hold of the brochure, it also show you about very specifically the pathway. Yeah, like what Hui Ming is showing now. The pathway, where they can go, which university they can go, and also the pathway is there. So what are the arrangement made, whether it's 1+2, 2+1, what are the majors, what are the pathway that they want to study. Yeah, so it's all there in the brochures. Okay, probably I think that's all from our side. probably if there's any maybe specific
hang
question.
on a moment.
Yeah. Specific
Yeah,
question.
there's some questions. There's a
Yes,
question
please.
from Jamie. Jamie Chua, are you there? Jamie, are you there?
Maybe Raymond, maybe Yin Yin can ask on behalf. Yin Yin?
Yes, Yin, carry on.
Yin Yin, do you have the question with you?
I think Jamie just responded. Maybe we let Jamie to ask the question.
Sure, Hui Min.
Jamie, you have a question?
Cannot hear. Are you muted?
You have to unmute your mic, yeah. Can I ask on behalf of her? Her question is, if Help University want an agent to help them in a transfer for a university overseas within Help list, can the students still apply for scholarship? Dr. Chia and Hui Min?
Sorry, again, can you repeat that?
Sure. If Help University want an agent to help them in the transfer to an overseas university, our partner university, all right? Can the students still apply the scholarship if they want an agent to help them for the transfer?
Okay, understand. Okay. There's no issue. Anybody, the scholarship got nothing to do with whether they go through the agent and they go anywhere. It doesn't matter. That's why I say the criteria is only 3 criteria, which is actually their result, their co-curriculum, and also their how they carry on an interview. The other criteria, whether they are come from the agent or things like that, we will do the same process. Got nothing to do with the scholarship. So anybody, any agent can actually get the student, if they know their results are good, ask them to apply for the scholarship.
Yeah, let me just add on.
Your question?
Yeah, let me just add on to what Dr. Chia has mentioned. In fact, we do have our own student placement center where it gives the full-fledged of service to our students in terms of their credit transfer arrangement, from the visa application to their accommodation, everything we can actually do that for our students. So in fact, we always encourage our students to apply through our placement center so that they get a more complete picture on what is happening. Yeah.
Oh, actually, from here, for us is student is a choice of the students where they want to get whether the agent or whether from us. We leave it to the student's choice. We don't that not the determining factor for the scholarship application.
Dr. Chia, can I ask a question? We have briefed about the credit transfer, and we are the only one institution in the world that allows for final year transfer to University of Queensland. So other than transfer, Help have been working over the past 2 years. We have been working on the Bloomberg Center, the data analytics with the support from the Bloomberg Asia. Would you want to explain a little bit on the Bloomberg, on the budget that we are working on right now?
Okay, you're talking about the Bloomberg Center, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, we have been working with a lot, because when we started our Bloomberg lab, the Bloomberg lab is just to highlight to all the participants today. It's actually we call it a financial lab lah. It's more for finance, where our students can get a lot of data. This Bloomberg lab is actually their data. There are a lot of data. It's quite expensive for us to actually buy those access to this Bloomberg. At Subang 2 campus, we have 14 what I call terminals. In Damansara, we have 2. And what happened is that these are the what I call Bloomberg access of this data are normally what I call used by big companies, big firms, that when they do investment and all that, because the Bloomberg lab is the one that can get the data of a company, AirAsia, for example, 20 years back, the data, the historical data and things like that. So these are all data, and a lot of things that they can get from there. And in those, especially students doing finance, they will be exposed as a student at Help to how to use this data to do analysis and things like that. And a lot of our finance subject, they are linked to these assignments, where this will train the student when they come out. When they come out, they work in all these big firms. They already know how to use this lab. Whereas people who are not exposed to this Bloomberg lab, they are at a disadvantage. So we have these centers for the students. So in fact, when we first started, we have got advice from all these universities, because they overseas university, a lot of them are having all these Bloomberg labs and things like that. They already advise us what to do and things like that. That's how we started our Bloomberg lab. Yeah. Is that what you meant, Lei Kwan?
Yes, Dr. Chia, you have explained it very well. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Yin Yin, do you have? Oh, Yin Yin is on the phone at the moment. Lei Kwan, do you have any other questions? Lei Kwan, do you have any other questions?
Sorry, I'm okay. I'm checking on the meeting chat. No more question already. No more question. Yeah.
No. Okay, Jen, thank you very much. Lei Kwan as well. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the attendees today, the participants, parents, students, agents, counselors, and teachers, all of you who've joined us. I hope the session was very meaningful to all of you. Special thanks for this one to Dr. Chia and Hui Min. Stephen Wu, thank your faculty as well. And another round of thanks also to Ravi Vranman, who gave an excellent talk on communicating with impact earlier. Thank you very much for your time. And later, can we get the slides and so we can send it out to the participants? Dr. Chia, Hui Min?
Yeah. Yes. I will pass to you or Lei Kwan?
Pass it to me. Please. I will coordinate together with Ravi's session and Dr. Jerry's session as well.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for your time. And everyone, please stay safe.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. It's a very nice moment to be together with everybody. Thank you.
Yes.